Tonight I'm reviewing a film that was requested for me to review by one of my good friends. This will be spoilers early on. If you haven't seen it, it is Don't Move, that came out on Netflix October this year. It is starring Kelsey Asbilly and Finn Wittrock, directed by Brian Netto and Adam Schindler, and then written by TJ Simfeld and David White. Again, this was on Netflix, came out in October. So this one was a decent movie. It's basically about this woman who she's lost her son. He has fallen from a cliff, and she goes to that same cliff with the intent of jumping. And there's a gentleman named Richard who comes up behind her and basically talks her out of it. They share a brief conversation and it works. She agrees to not end herself. She walks down to her car from this cliff, and by the time she gets to her car and sees that there's another vehicle that's kind of blocking her door, she can't get into her car, then here comes Richard after her. And he's being all charming and off-putting and, oh yeah, you're kind of tight there, huh? You can't get in. Oh, I'm so sorry. Just that weird stalling kind of thing. Is like, bro, if you see you blocked me in, move. But, just doing that, oh yeah, it's kind of doing that nonsense, man, and just wasting time. So he did that. Fast forward, he injects her with this concoction that paralyzes her. Doesn't kill her, but paralyzes her. Not immediately, though, over time. So when he injects her, she runs, right? She runs through the woods. He gives chase, and the chemicals slowly start to take place. She starts to lose motor skills and things, and she ends up by this river in which she tosses herself into, trying to get away from Richard. She ends up floating down the river a ways, and she ends up, this is pretty much an entire recap of the movie. Like I said, my friend asked me for this. If I'm going to do it, I may as well post it. So, and I mean, if you were considering watching the film, this could work for you too. So she floats down the river and she ends up in someone's yard. This guy's cutting grass. He's coming through. He sees her. By this time, the paralyzation has completely set in. All she can do is blink. She can't move anything. Of course, you can imagine Richard is still trying to find her. This old man hops off of his lawnmower, brings her inside. But before then, they are able to communicate because he's asking her basically blink once, for this, blink twice for this, whatever. So he's able to communicate that way. Brings her inside, and he means to call the police to get some help for her, basically. Well, Richard shows up, right? And the old man does his damnedest to lie to Richard. He does a great job, but Richard's pretty freaking smart. And so fast forwarding in this part, he kills the man in the apartment because he finds out that he is lying. I forgot what he ended up seeing that kind of eluded as much, but he ends up killing a guy. He can't find, I think her name was Amy. He can't find her. The old man has stashed her behind the couch, so she can't, because she can't move, she's stuck. When Richard goes back outside and gets ready to leave, she musters up enough strength out of nowhere somehow to start manipulating the blinds. So she's got the blinds kind of doing this. And after a while, Richard sees it. He's like, what the hell? So he goes back inside. He finds her, takes her out, right? As time goes on, she's getting to where she's able to talk. And excuse me here, because I could be misplacing what I'm about to say. Because it's been a while since I saw this film. This very well could have happened before the whole river, her floating down the river thing. But Amy finds out that Richard is a family man. Now, here's my problem. We never find, I'm big on why. If you watch my reviews, all of them, you'll see that I am big on why. Don't do something and not tell us why. Every killer, whether it's serial or some other type, has a motive. There is always a why. Let me give you an example. One of my favorite movies is Hellfest. I want to say it was written by Keela Cooper. In Hellfest, there's a killer. We never truly find out, like verbatim, like somebody saying it, why he does what he does. But I'm going to tell you how we find out. There's a scene before the main events, and like in the very beginning, there's a scene where he's at a haunted house. He's got his mask on, and somebody says something to the effect of, "You're not even scary, asshole." And because he was standing there just staring at people. And so somebody says that. And when they say that, he like snaps his head, and you can tell he was triggered. Right then, you know he was triggered. So that was enough to let us know, oh, you don't want to do that. So even though you didn't give it to us 100% verbatim, an intelligent person can say, oh, like he must have a thing with being called an asshole. And as the movie progresses, some people say, "You're not even scary. What are you doing?" It angers him. You can clearly see that it bothers him for people to call him an asshole and say that he's not scary, right? So he's overcompensating for something. We can figure that out based on what was given to us. But this dude in Don't Move, bro, you seem happy. You got a family and a kid. What are you doing? Why did you stop this person from jumping off this cliff just to turn around and do what to her? Right? Like, what was the end game? After the paralysis set in and you took her to wherever you were going to take her, what then were you going to do? We can try to imagine, sure, right? I'd say it's fairly easy to imagine what he might have done to her. But again, it's not the what, it's the why. I hate when why is not explained. So we don't get a why here. And eventually she starts to get those functions back, and there's some shots fired. Long story short, she gets away. That's that. So that's the entirety of that film. But again, my biggest issue with the whole thing is freaking why. So I say it's worth a watch. I'm going to say it was entertaining because the most entertaining thing for me was wondering how in the hell are you about to do anything paralyzed? So I thought it was creative. I thought it was very creative. I mean, because of the river, she was able to get a few hundred yards away from the guy. Because of the old man, she was able to hide for a little while. So there were some pretty decent creative choices in the writing, but the why, man, the why for me is going to always be kind of make or break. I hate not knowing. I hate being lost. I'll give you one more example for not telling us, but writing in such a creative way that whatever the audience figures out, it makes sense to go either way. The Thing. At the end of The Thing, you have Kurt Russell and Keith David left. During the events of the film, they blow up the outpost that they're at. There were points in the movie where they talked about that particular night, it was going to be like 40 below zero. So you've blown up your outpost and you're stuck outside. You're probably going to die. So for the latter 15 plus or so minutes of the film, Keith David is nowhere to be found, but he left hunting the Thing. At a point, we all thought that Kurt Russell was the Thing. It kept proving to not be him. At the end of the film, you have just him and Keith David, Kurt Russell and Keith David, sitting outside, both with guns, both looking at each other like, so what's it gonna be? You know, are you it? And then Keith is asking, are you it? We never find out. The two of them just sit there and the movie fades out. I'm okay with the three possible outcomes. One, they both froze to death. That's what I believe. Two, Kurt Russell had the thing in him, killed Keith David. Three, Keith David had the thing in him, killed Kurt Russell. Those are the only three possible outcomes. There is no way that they both survived and someone came and got them. It didn't know. It's not going to happen. There were only three possible outcomes. So I go for they froze to death, and that's that. Because they killed the thing. They want us to believe that they did. You'd have to believe that there was another one in order to believe that it was in either Keith or Kurt. So so again, creative writing will let us figure it out for ourselves. But when it's not written in that fashion and we're just like, I hate that. So for my homie, there you go. That's my review on Don't Move. So for anybody else watching, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when I drop the next reviews. See y'all next time.